Is anyone ready? Raise your hand. Okay, wonderful. I have the joy of introducing our speaker today, Vika Miller. Vika is a visionary educator, speaker, culture architect, and even a midwife. So there's a lot of life wisdom there with a passion.
Thriving midwife.
A thriving midwife, yes.
Not a baby midwife.
Oh, okay, a thriving midwife. What would that be?
I help people learn how to thrive.
Oh, that's cool. To birth, kind of like a birth a new life, a new way of living. So I got that. Now we have it correct. The other one would be cool too, but I love your. I love that, a spiritual midwife.
So long as there's nobody pregnant in the room.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Vika has a passion for co-creating a world where everyone thrives, the genius for gently illuminating our potential and our roadblocks to thriving. And Vika does all this with real-world wisdom and strategies that actually work. I'll say a hearty amen to that. And last Sunday, Vika and I talked for 3-4 hours. And I have to tell you, you're in for a real treat because she's got a life full of wisdom and other things that, as she says, are really applicable to when we leave here to living, having a better experience of life. So she's going to enlighten us today on living that thriving life in the flow, alive and well. You can find her at thrivingworldcommunity.org. Vika, thank you so much. We can't wait. And please, welcome Vika.
Thanks so much, Don. Yeah, how many times do you start up a conversation with someone and it doesn't end for 3 or 4 hours? I like to talk, but that doesn't happen to me that often. And yeah, it was so fun to visit with you and get to know you last week. Well, I have a really interesting experience right now because I debated back and forth and back and forth. Should I have slides or should I not have slides? Should I have slides? Should I not have slides? Well, I brought slides, I thought, but the thumb drive is empty. So clearly, I was mistaken about what I was going to do today. So I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen. Kind of just like regular life, right? Anybody else here plan your day and are surprised that other stuff happens? Yeah, I'm in my 60s. I'm still surprised that stuff happens in my day that I didn't plan for. In this way, I'm a very slow learner. But I'm definitely experiencing that today. I am delighted to be with you here today and with all of you who are joining us online as well. And today we're going to be talking about creating, or how to create, a world that works. The theme here at Lake Herit Spiritual Community this month is active engagement. And I think these two topics go together really well. So I'm just wondering, do you have something in your life that's an important challenge or concern for you? Maybe related to your health or your relationships or something at work. Anybody have any kind of challenge going on? Yeah. And I'm wondering, might you also be feeling some concern about what the future might hold in terms of our country or the environment? Anybody dealing with some of that? Yeah. Do you struggle with wanting to be able to do something about those concerns that can make a real difference, especially those related to what's going on in our country and our world today? Do you find yourself just really wanting to be able to do something like that noticeable, that really makes a clear difference? Anybody? Yeah, me too. That's good because today we're talking about actively engaging in creation to bring about what's most important to us in our lives, for all of humanity, and for the earth, both now and in the future. So I'd like to begin by creating a powerful container for what we're going to create together today. And I know we did a little bit of this at Don's invitation, but I want to go a little bit deeper. So I want to invite you to take some deep breaths and really arrive in your body. You might enjoy closing your eyes, but really feel your body sensations right in this moment. Our presence together helps create this powerful, resonant, shared space. At the deepest level, creativity is holiness. To create is to further the dream and desire of the Creator. When the world was created, it wasn't a one-off finished event. Made in the image and likeness of the divine imagination, human creativity adds to creation. The unfinished is reaching towards us in order to come to form and expression. Everything we feel, think, and do, even the smallest thing, expresses and unfolds the dream of the divine. John O'Donohue. Now I want to ask, what does this mean to you? Don, would you be willing to help get the mic to anyone who's willing to be so generous enough to share with us? What does that poem mean to you? Who'd be willing to share?
I know for me that every thought, every word, every feeling is creative. That's both a little bit scary in terms of, am I always doing that intentionally, but also very hopeful and a real sense of possibility in that, wow, I am an ongoing creator just in my everyday thinking.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you.
Yeah, creation is obviously super powerful. That's the power. That's really what manifestation is, and we're all really gods, essentially, because we are God. So that puts a lot of power into each individual's hands, and so you have to have heart-centered intentions every time that you even think, or the actions that you do. And thankfully, our vibrations are slower, that those are not instant. Otherwise, we would create a lot of havoc in the world. So I do think about that. That's how I see as creation.
Yeah, thank you.
That's awesome.
And was it Sean?
Creativity, I believe, is the one thing that can't be taken from you. Whether or not you have water or food, or you're shackled and bound, creativity is still in your hands. It's within your control. It's something that we all possess and can never truly be taken. So I think every time you use it, it's a beautiful expression of you.
Thank you so much.
This is really good.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else willing to share what being a creator means to you? Okay.
You have a thought? Okay, cool. You did great, by the way. I kind of did. But you did great. I knew you would. You had a great story. She was at the 9 o'clock. She was a great story. I tell you, very inspiring person.
Yeah, really wonderful shares. So, do you have an experience of being a powerful creator in your own life? If you do, would you raise your hand? Not that many hands. And I think that there's a reason for that, that has a lot to do with what we see happening in our world today. So, in a moment, I'm going to ask you to let me know if you're abundantly thriving in every aspect of your life. Full spectrum, thriving. But before you answer, I want you to just take a moment and consider, how is your physical health? Are you free from any significant disease or dysfunction? Are you enjoying abundant energy, great digestion, restorative sleep, a healthy heart, pain-free joints, healthy teeth and gums, good blood pressure, and no issues with your blood sugar? Just think about that for yourself. How's your emotional and relational health? Now, I just want to acknowledge, if you have human beings in your life, and you do, especially if you live with other human beings, we kind of already know that sometimes you're going to feel annoyed. Because the closer you are to someone, especially if you're sharing a home with them, the more likely it is you're going to feel annoyed at them sometimes, right? There's a quote by Whoopi Goldberg that I love. Years ago, she had moved in with a partner after having lived alone for a long time, and the interviewer said, "How's it going?" And she said, "Well, you know, if you're living in your house and someone else is living there with you, it's a problem." But we're not going to think about that, because that's just kind of everyday. It's just part of being human. It's part of dealing with our differences. But do all of your relationships work well enough that they don't drain your energy or disrupt your peace or well-being? How about your relationship with yourself? Is your everyday free from any significant nervous system upsets, like repeated moments of anger, judgment, anxiety, depression, second guessing, people pleasing, confusion, overwhelm? Are these very rare occurrences for you? And how is your access to enough of the basic necessities of life? Do you have plenty of healthy food, good housing with easy access to green spaces, reliable, comfortable door-to-door temperature when you're traveling, basic phone and internet? Are you completely comfortable and confident that you'll have consistent, uninterrupted access to those resources in the future? In January, Bankrate did a survey and found that 59% of Americans don't have enough savings to cover a $1,000 emergency expense. So there's a lot of folks that aren't thriving in that area. How are you doing? So now, having considered a good example of your full spectrum thriving, I'm wondering if you'd be willing to raise your hand if you're abundantly thriving in all of those areas. Beautiful. There's one hand that went up in the room, and notice mine didn't go up either. So, what is going on? We're powerful creators, but some of us don't feel very connected to our power. We're living in a nation that has tremendous resources, and yet we're not thriving. What is going on? Well, I would like to suggest that what's going on is our modern human world isn't working. With all of the wisdom we have and all of the technology we have, how could it be that we're not abundantly thriving? Especially since thriving is the meaning, design, and purpose of life. The only reason anything would ever do anything, expend any energy, is to contribute to its thriving. Right? Does that make sense? I mean, you'd never want to spend energy to have your thriving or well-being diminished, would you? That would be kind of crazy. So, consciously or unconsciously, whether what we do works to increase our thriving or not, that's the game. It's the only game in town. Every living thing is designed to thrive in its natural environment. Not just humans. All life of any form is designed to thrive. That's why I say it's our birthright to thrive. But again, if it's our birthright to thrive, why aren't we thriving? What's going on? I don't know where to put that. So the first reason is we simply don't know how. There's something called life needs that are the pathways to thriving. Every species has their own pathway. An amoeba needs certain things in order to thrive. An oak tree needs different things in order to thrive. There's some overlap, but there's some huge differences. And of course, human beings are going to have our own life needs, our own pathways to thriving. Now, do you remember in school where they taught us that we need food, clothing, shelter, air, water? Are those the things that we need to thrive? No. Those are the things that we need to not die. Those are the things that we need to survive. And so nobody taught us what we need to do to thrive. I don't know where you are in your lifespan, but I remember when, at least in America, we figured out, oh my God, human beings need touch. It's essential. John Bowlby in Britain actually is the one that figured this out, but it took several decades for that idea to propagate into the United States. And it's still not a fundamental thing that our culture is providing us with opportunities to experience. All kinds of touch, right? Holding hands, hugging. Now, I see, for example, a lot more men hugging now than I did when I was small. There's more access. But I don't think this is happening here yet. I lived in Portland for 13 years, and they have cuddle parties there. They really get that we need touch. And we don't always want it to be sexual touch, right? In fact, I think our culture is in trouble if sexual touch is the main way we get access to touch. I have a theory that half of the romantic relationships would disappear instantly if everyone had all the access to non-sexual touch that they wanted. So that's just one of the examples of some of our life needs that we need in order to thrive. I'm going to give you the top categories. The first one, as you already know, is basically physical sustenance and stability. Like, we need to know we're not going to be shot at. We need to know that we're going to have access to food and clothing and shelter and all of that. We also need shared humanity. I need someone to acknowledge we are both equally human and equally valuable. My slides are so small I can't read them. I'm going to get out my big page. We also need shared external reality. We have to agree that there's a lectern here. If we can't agree what's physically in our space together, or if we can't agree what I said, that you heard, if we don't have that shared reality, we can't even live together. This is one of the things that's going on in our country right now. There are people in the country who perceive a completely different reality from us. And it creates a lot of fear, and it creates a sense of craziness. We have to have shared reality in order to have some sense of sanity and like literally living, inhabiting the same world. We have a need for acceptance and belonging. What I call honored personal reality, because there's the reality out here, but there's also a reality in here, and in there, and in there, and in there. We're all a culture, a world of one. There's a world in here of sensation, of experience, of thought, of imagination, of invention, the whole shooting match. I love spinach. You might rather starve than eat it. We're different. And if we want to connect with people, we have to be able to see, learn about, and acknowledge and honor the fact that there's a reality over there that is different from mine. Overlaps in some places and it is different in others. And if you're going to connect with me, you will have to be willing to learn about and make room for, acknowledge the world over here. Does that make sense? Now, I don't know about you, but I was 36 years old in the capstone course of my master's degree program before I learned that other people experience the world differently than me. I'm still embarrassed about that. But I know for sure nobody ever taught me that before that moment. I literally just thought there was something wrong with y'all. Because what makes sense to me is obviously the right thing, right? Well, as we know, if we're going to be in relationship with someone else, we're going to have to make room for their reality too. Self-connection, self-care, and wholeness is another thing that we need. We actually have to have a relationship with ourselves. But we're not going to develop that unless someone first gives us room to discover who we are and what reality is for me and for you. If we don't know ourselves, if we aren't given the opportunity to discover ourselves, we can't claim and honor ourselves, and we can't become a true participant in our lives or in our relationships. Does this make sense to you? These making sense? Yeah. We also need freedom, choice, and authentic power, which is tough to come by if people are telling us how we're supposed to be, or criticizing us, or invalidating our experience. I mean, it can be as simple as, how can you be hungry? You just ate. Well, I don't know, but I'm hungry. And I don't really believe I should have to justify or explain it. I need you to acknowledge that is my reality. You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to deal with it, but it does exist. When we make room for each other in this way, our relationships really start to blossom. The next major life need we have is variety, play, creation, and growth. All mammals actually need variety. Mammals go crazy if environment stays the same all the time. We also need attunement, a sense of being seen and gotten at this deeper level. Acceptance and belonging is, you can be in my village. I don't have to like you. I don't even need to play with you. It's okay for me that you're in my space, and I'm happy to share resources, but I may or may not really enjoy you. But attunement is really coming into resonant space with each other. It's, I delight in you. I see you and I delight in you. Do you agree this is one of the things that you need to thrive? Yeah. And lastly, connection with life or source, this sense that we are part of something bigger, that we're not lonely, separate beings cut off not only from the divine, but from each other. We need this sense of fundamental connection. And I'm just curious, who here has grown up knowing about those life needs? Knowing about those life needs. Do they all make sense to you? Yeah. So guess why you're not thriving in this like abundant 360-degree way? How could you? If you didn't know that those are the things that human beings need, how could you possibly become a powerful creator in your own thriving or contributing to others? It's impossible. And the only reason that I know this is because I started testing it when I was 12 years old, pretty much the minute I learned the scientific method. And then I got a lot of help from nonviolent communication that started out with some categories, but I've completely revised them, as I like to do. Because I, for whatever reason, I have always had this instinct that we're made for joy. We're here to create and play together. And life is wonderful. I'm curious, how many of you came in with that sort of expectation? Like, this is a party. This is an amazing, incredible, wonderful world. Let's play. Let's explore. And then it's like, people aren't really having such a good time together. We don't understand each other. We hurt each other. We don't know how to fix it when we hurt each other. It's been 50 years of trial and error to learn what is going on, that we are not fulfilling our birthright of thriving. And so that's why I'm a thriving midwife, because I figured it out after a lot of messy and even disastrous trial and error. Being sure I knew some things that turned out not to be true. Anybody ever do that? You believe something very, 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 very strongly, and you only give it up when your life has kind of been shattered because you're holding on to it. Anybody else pull that one? Yeah, yeah. Oh, sometimes we take the long way around, don't we? So the thing to know about life needs and thriving is that when life needs aren't met, the body, mind, and spirit experiences stress. And you all know by now that stress is the #1 cause of all major illness. But now you know the secret. Stress is the sign that you have unmet life needs. And so if you're stressed, you need to take a look at the life needs list, which you can get if you email me, and find out what your life need is that's missing, and then go figure out ways to get that met. It'll always be trial and error, by the way. There isn't a script to, plug this in and that comes out. You have to discover it for yourself. But this is doable. Does it sound doable? If you knew what your life need was? Yeah. So that's what it means to learn how to thrive. And a big part of that is identifying when a life need isn't met. And wouldn't it be great? Do you think our bodies have a system for letting us know when a life need hasn't been met before it gets to an emergency level? Yeah. And the way our body does that is with our feelings. Positive, comfortable feelings are telling us that our life needs are being nourished and we're moving towards thriving. Thriving is expanding. Unpleasant, uncomfortable feelings are telling us that our thriving is diminishing. Our life needs are not being met. They're not being nourished. Anybody here like me, or mostly how I used to be, where you find yourself getting angry a lot? Like that's kind of your go-to, something's wrong, you tend to get angry? Anybody willing to admit that besides me? Yeah, a few of us. What about kind of withdrawing and going into what we would call flight in neuroscience? It's like things get intense and you just want to move away from that. Yeah. And how about appeasing or people pleasing? Something goes wrong and you want to try to make it better with that other person. Yeah. And what about just overwhelm and shutdown? Brain fog, confusion, paralysis. Yeah. These are all big picture signs that you have life needs that haven't been met for a long time. Those are all alarm reactions, right? When we learn that uncomfortable, unpleasant feelings are telling us there's a life need not being met, go grab your life need list and address it. And when our life needs are met, those unpleasant, uncomfortable emotions decrease. What's more, what we see is that if someone's having an issue and they're upset about something, they're working maybe in my presence practice depth group, if the other people in the group acknowledge the life need that they have, their nervous system calms down right then. Just identifying the life need changes our psychobiophysiology. This is real stuff. It really works. So notice that I didn't say positive and negative feelings. I didn't use that language because would you consider an unpleasant, uncomfortable emotion that's telling you something important? Your hand's on a hot stove. Is it a negative feeling that you can feel the burning? I'd say that's pretty important information that you really want to get as soon as possible. So we don't call them negative feelings. They're information, they're guidance, and they're feedback. Now, one of the things that I love announcing, kind of like a hallelujah, on the positive side of things, do you want the secret to happiness? Anybody want the secret to happiness? I mean for real. Yeah. We feel happy when we're thriving. So if you want to be happy, a very positive, pleasant emotion, right? If you want to be happy, learn how to thrive. That's the secret to happiness. Now, I'm just curious, does this sound actually pretty simple? Is it pretty easy to understand? I mean, you're probably going to want a list of life needs to help guide you, but other than that, easy to do in your life? Yeah, pretty easy to apply. Our problems can be solved by accurately identifying and nourishing our depleted life needs. Because all a problem is is a depleted life need, right? One form or another. So if it's so simple, why isn't all of life about thriving? Well, there's 3 very important reasons. Now, this was where I was going to hold up or point at the slides to a green stick figure guy. This is the thriving guy. And I was going to hold up a red one with its head on fire. And that is survival guy. All of us have a part of us that is designed to thrive and knows how to do that. And then we all have this other part of our brain that's just concerned about survival, right? You've heard this, the amygdala and the amygdala hijack and all of that stuff, right? Is familiar to you? I call it you could also call it your parasympathetic nervous system for your thriving self, or your sympathetic nervous system for your survival self. I don't like these words because even the experts mix them up, myself included, because sympathetic sounds good, doesn't it? I like to use a language that's clear, direct, and simple. You don't need any special knowledge to understand it. So can you recognize that you have a thriving self or consciousness and a survival self or consciousness? Can you recognize that? Yeah. I talked earlier about those 4 kinds of alarm: fight, flight, appease, and freeze. Those are the things that are going on when our survival self gets activated. And the problem is that when our survival self is activated, it loses connection with reality. Our brains literally function in a much more limited way when our survival self is activated. And our perceptions, even though our perceptions are never exactly accurate because our brain doesn't see reality, it makes it up based on the data that it sees. So none of us is ever perceiving everything accurately. But when our survival self is activated, our capacity to see reality and to respond in any sort of flexible way goes way down. They've even tested and find that we tend to lose about 25 IQ points when we're in our survival brain. Just has very limited capacity. Now, you've probably heard it called toddler brain or lizard brain or whatever. You familiar with your survival brain? Toddler, lizard, whatever you like to call it. You're familiar with it, right? So this is the part of us where when we're in a conversation with somebody and something goes wrong and we start to feel a little upset and we keep talking and we're trying to figure it out and it's not getting any better, and we start thinking things that we want to say to that person. But we know that would be bad, right? It would feel so good to say those things, but a part of us is very clear, nope, not saying that. But the conversation goes on. And suddenly something happens, and now you're saying those things. And the part of you that was avoiding that is now watching in horror as that stuff comes out of our mouth. You familiar with this experience? Yeah, on both sides, right? I mean, we don't see the other person not saying things, but welcome to your brain. This is all factory installed. There's nothing wrong with our human brains that they work this way. The problem is we don't know how to operate them. And so when this happens, we don't really know how to stop our survival brain from taking over and leaving our thriving brain as a passenger in our lives. This is one of the major blocks that keeps us from thriving, even if we and when we know what our life needs are And we know that when we have unpleasant or uncomfortable feelings, or we have conflict with another person, even though we know all of that, that only works when our thriving brain, our thriving self, is in charge. Now, have you experienced this, trying to get a hold of your survival self? Are there places in your life where you tend to get triggered and that one tends to come out? I don't know about you, but even though I teach this and I think about it pretty much every day, all I have to do is go home and have my sister start bossing me. And my survival self comes right out. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why we're not thriving. So we need to learn how to manage our survival self. And I'm going to give you a hot tip. Don't forget this if you're not using it already. The number one best strategy to keep your survival self from ruining your life is the adult timeout. Especially in your relationships with people you care about that you see on an ongoing basis, I highly advise you to let them know that you really care about your relationship with them, and you're wanting to really make sure that when you say or do something in your relational space, you want to make sure it's expressing how you truly feel about them, how you truly value them. And so, if you're worried you might say or do something you would later regret or have to clean up that wouldn't have a good impact on them, let them know in advance that you are going to be taking a time out. And that time out doesn't mean you're abandoning them, doesn't mean you don't care, doesn't mean you won't talk about whatever the issue is later. It means you care so much that you're not willing to put any more negative, harmful stuff in the space that you share with them. I'm curious, anybody already practicing this? Yeah, I knew there'd be some hands. Does this sound like a helpful plan? The next time you see yourself starting to get a little hot, catch it early. Catch it when it's just some discomfort. And you'll learn where your limit is, for the most part, to really reduce any of the drama and trauma that we add into our relationships. The number 2 most effective way to manage our survival self is to increase our capacity for presence. How many of you have some kind of mindfulness or meditation practice where you're observing your thoughts and your feelings and your words, and you're just spending time noticing that and simply being with it? Yeah. I use a process called compassionate noticing that involves simply noticing my thoughts, my feelings, my body sensations, and my impulses. I don't add meaning, I don't try to understand them. I just feel what's arising in here. And I learn to tolerate what's not comfortable without rushing off to try to get away from that feeling as fast as I can and then end up just reacting because I have no tolerance when those feelings get triggered. And you never know when they're going to get triggered, right? It's a total crapshoot when that's going to happen. Although, like I said, I know I need to be ready when I visit my sister. So, compassionate noticing is a super powerful way to teach our bodies we can feel these uncomfortable, unpleasant things, and we can still be okay. And as we learn to tolerate those sensations, we get more choice. We create a gap between what happens and our response to it. A gap where we can fill that in with choice, which, I don't know about you, but I experience that gap as power. I get to be the creator of my life because I create that gap. If you want to learn more about compassionate noticing, let me know and I can connect you with that resource. We also have something called depth work presence practice, and probably you know something about how to heal trauma. That's what we do there. A number of processes that actually allow us to resolve those kinds of memories. So that's the number 2 issue, is we have past trauma. Trauma is, yeah. Oh, I don't have till 5:25 after?
20 after you start wrapping up.
Oh,
You'll be able to say something at the closing circle too.
okay, okay. My apologies. So, the triggers that we experience with trauma are because those memories aren't processed, and there are many different ways to process memory so that we do have choice. But I do want to say the last problem is that some of us, and our culture in general, is living in a story of survival and separation rather than a story of thriving and connection. And if you believe you live in a world where you have to fight to survive, you are going to have a much more reactive nervous system, much less connection to reality, and you're going to be doing things like exploiting people, benefiting at other people's expense, because you have a right to thrive, or you have a right to survive. That's a huge part of what's going on in our country and our world. People don't understand that we are made for connection with life itself and each other, and that we are fundamentally secure in the world. So, as Gary so kindly let me know, that is all the time that I have for today. If you're interested in talking more about this, you're in luck, because roughly 11:45 to 12, whenever we're all ready to get out of here, I'm going to be downstairs in the Earth Room offering you a chance to talk more about whatever interests you from today. And I'm going to do this actually almost every week, because I love what I hear when I'm sitting where you are. And I always want to talk more about it and talk more with the people that are in the room. And so one of the things I tend to do to support my thriving is, if I want it, I create it. So if you have time and you're interested, bring your lunch, and feel free to leave whenever you need to. So, blessings on us all. No exceptions.
Thank you, Vika. How do we get in touch with you, Vika, for more information?
You know, the simplest way is vikamiller.com/start-here.
It's wonderful.
Talk to me afterwards as well.
Thank you. That was really amazing. I have so much homework to do, I believe, there from that. So that whole issue of consciously choosing and that mindset of thriving is really important. So thank you for that wonderful information. And now is the time for us to donate, give some cash or whatever to this organization here. We are a volunteer organization, so our doors are open so that we can serve people here in our spiritual community through our donations. You can give online at lakeharrietspiritualcommunity.org. There's also a Venmo QR code. It's going to be in the basket. Do we have, Gary, did we have someone that's going to bring the basket down? Thank you.
Forget about that when John's not here.
Yeah, right. Thank you so much. Thank you for your generosity.
Take a look around and see the world we think we know, and then look closer. There's more to life than meets the eye, a beauty to behold. It's so much bigger than we know. It's only just beginning to unfold, so let it all unfold. Far beyond all reason in your mind, there's a world mysterious there for you to find. All these questions that we always have, all we are is curious. There's nothing wrong with that. So go around every corner, search every part of the sky, 'cause a life that's full
That's fantastic. How about these two volunteers here? The person who normally does it has had a medical emergency, and we send them our prayers and our blessings. So thank you so much. If you please raise your hands and repeat after me. God's perfect love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am. Oh, thank you. All right, just bring them to the back, and thank you so much for that. Well, thank you for being here today. We believe that all of you are unique, all of you are special, you're all here for a reason. So they also say that the universe is not happening to us, it's responding to us. So with all that great information we had today from Vika, there's so much to be thinking about and applying in our lives this coming week. And now is our time for the closing circle. If we just want to form a circle maybe halfway through, Rubem, if you want to maybe help us. Okay, thank you. Maybe even closer, and yeah, thank you. Right through one of these, yeah, thank you so much.
So I would like to invite you to just say one or two words about what uplifted you in the service today. For me, it's companionship on the journey.
Intention. It's there to be had. Receive it.
Knowledge.
Choosing to thrive.
The power of creation.
Listening to others.
Just like loving each other.
Reflection of self.
Power to thrive. Shared perspective.
Partial awakening.
Community.
If I really want it, I'll create it.
Choosing to learn.
The key to happiness.
Knowing oneself.
Self-empowerment.
New reality.
Creativity.
Thank you so much, and I hope that this supports you in blossoming your thriving, since after all, I am a thriving midwife, and I love those kinds of babies. And feel free to join me downstairs this week or any other week that you'll see it in meetup and stuff like that. There are some weeks that we won't meet, but I would love to see you there and get to know you better and support each other on the journey, because I still have to do my work too. Thank you so much.
You everyone have a great week, and lots to do here this week. Maybe we'll see you again soon. Blessings.